Hey guys, Mike here. So definitely an interesting day Friday, and what a way to end the week. And of course, we got a big week coming up, obviously with FOMC, which we'll get into in tomorrow's video and what to look for. Because something interesting really happened from Thursday to Friday, and this huge shift when it comes to how big the interest rate cut will be. And so we'll get into a lot more detail on that in tomorrow's video. Today we'll talk about what the Q and the SPY did. I thought it was pretty significant. And then, of course, we'll get into your questions right after that. You had some really good ones this week, so I really appreciate all those. And, I'm going to start off with this. I don't know, has anybody noticed what NVIDIA's CEO has been doing? Like, they're selling, and then there's I don't know if I've ever seen this before, but the dude is literally selling every day. And you want to talk about consistent. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is every day, 120,000 shares since going back. We scroll down, that was 9/9 was the latest date. And then if we keep going back here, this started actually in June. And so just every day, I haven't even counted up like how many millions of shares this is or whatever. But, and look, he owns, I mean, just a boatload of shares. Okay, this doesn't even put a dent in what he has. And, you never know. Maybe he's got a yacht to pay for. Maybe he's going to buy a sports team because the guy, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's a billionaire just off the stock he owns right now, even after the drop in the stock. And so, but I just don't remember CEO like for 3 months straight now, every single day it's 120,000 shares hitting the market, 120,000 shares, right? And so interesting. Let me know if you can remember another CEO that did that. I know Jeff Bezos like dumped a boatload of Amazon, but he was doing seemed like just big blocks just all at once, especially at that $200 level. He just unloaded a ton of stock. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. But looking at the Qs and SPY real quick, then we'll throw IWM in there, and it's just funny, guys, how this works. Just look at this. The SPY, remember the drama continues. It rejects off this trend line right here, which of course this trend line goes way back to February 2023, which is respected pretty well. You can see today rejected off that again. I can't believe it. Going into FOMC week, we couldn't get above that. And so, where are we going? That's what we got to figure out. They're going to try to bring this down right before FOMC. But don't worry, it wasn't just SPY with the drama. Look at the Qs. We talked about this. Wedging, right? Look at that. Right on the dot on the daily. Bam. Hit it, sat there, played around with it all day long, but we could not. God forbid they let us break out on the Friday, right? That wouldn't have any drama, right? So we're going to come down here, maybe go ahead, mitigate these fair value gaps Monday, maybe Tuesday before moving up. Then we get the rate cut and we get to see how the market's really going to react. Or do they break us out this Monday? That's what we got to find out. Monday's hadn't exactly been the greatest day out there, right? But then, oh my God, all three indexes, look at this, rejected. I mean, isn't that that's perfect. I mean, algorithms couldn't do it any better to set this up going into next week. There's going to be another one. Do we come down and fill the gap maybe on Monday, then come up, and then we get the rate cut? And this is the one I want to see. IWM, how does it react to rate cuts? Because we hadn't had, like, if it's a 25, for example, that hadn't happened since the 2019 rate cutting cycle. I'm talking about obviously not being in an official recession, all that fun stuff, or shutting down the world type of cut. So, just amazing how they set us up for the week right here. Not surprised. Let me know if you are. And that leads us into our first question here from Lisa. It says, Mike, could you explain the NASDAQ 100 E-mini futures chart that you have been focusing on? Thank you very much for a beginner's question. I'll try my best on this one, but really, you don't have to trade futures or anything. That's not what I'm telling anybody to do. Well, when you look at this, like this is NQ1, and you look at futures on anything, by the way. You can go ES or just type in futures, and you'll see, I mean, even Bitcoin has futures. Everything seems to have futures when you look at this, and you scroll down and see what you want to look at, whether it's gold, Bitcoin, oil, doesn't really matter. You can trade about anything in this world on the futures market and stuff. But, looking at this, for me, it's about knowing what happens while I'm sleeping, okay? Because sometimes you get the big move overnight, and then sometimes you get it during the day. And sometimes what happens at night is going to dictate what happens in the day, right? And a lot of times you say, this is a clean chart. This ain't the chart I actually use because I have levels like prior day high, prior day low, prior week lows, prior week's highs. Those are crucial to put on these charts. But what you'll see is you'll start to get a trend, right? Where all of a sudden you'll see these pullbacks and it's, bouncing and bouncing and bouncing, or maybe it starts to consolidate sideways, excuse me. And so that's the kind of stuff I'm looking at. But you can get a lot of stuff from these charts because if you look and say, wow, we had this massive drawdown overnight, which means sometimes you're going to get a huge pump during the daytime. You wonder why you're getting it. Well, you had a big move overnight to grab liquidity, right? And then sometimes you just consolidate sideways. And coming out of that, as you can kind of see, you get a big dump a bunch of times, right? And so, or you just do nothing if it's Friday, like you saw this past Friday, where we just saw it sideways and then just kind of grind it up, had these crazy moves down and stuff. Well, play around with the chart, see what you notice, because I notice different things all the time. Because remember, I didn't even start looking at futures till like maybe last year. And so, again, it's something I'm still learning stuff every day on. But when you look at this, I mean, like Friday, for example, you know, and this will happen, and I have this line drawn. I'm starting to learn very quickly to get this line drawn. As soon as I see, like, I can hit 2 touches on it, I'm looking for that 3rd touch, but you can see, this is what you'll see. Whether it's ES or NQ, one of them normally will start off respecting the trend, okay? And so you may see, it depends. So if you look at just like one NQ or just ES, you might miss something. You may not understand why it bounced or why it sold off or whatever happened, but you can see when that trend line breaks, you usually get a pretty quick move down, right? That's usually what happens. And it correlates to the SPY too. I mean, and I'm going to show you something in just a minute with another question. But you go over the SPY, and this trend line was going well through the 12th, right? So I just extended it out because I said, I wonder if we're going to come back to this trend line, because I noticed we normally do that. And it took almost all freaking day to do it. But it finally came back down once it rounded off, okay? Now that leads me into this one right here. It says, Mike, do you use multiple time frames and stuff when you're trading or investing? I actually started doing that more, and I'll kind of explain in just a second. But you know, when you look, a lot of these, you're going to see bounces and you're going to see drawdowns. You may wonder why we bounce here, why we bounce there, when it might be just one index or futures chart is the reason that happened. And so when you look, for example, like yesterday, I recorded this. You know, when we bounced off that 50 moving average, once it broke above it, you know, it was a V-shaped recovery. And then when you go to the NQ chart, you can see it's been riding this trend line up like all day long. And right over there to the right is where you saw the bounce off the 50 right there. And so you got QQQ lined up, bouncing off its 50 moving average, and Q is bouncing off a trend line. A lot of times this does not happen though. Let me be very clear. Yesterday was just, everything was so in sync with one another. And so when you get a couple of different charts showing the same thing, there's ES following the same thing, trend line, bouncing. And so if you have all these pulled up in different tabs and you see this, you're like, oh man, you can understand why you get such a huge and a fast recovery, right? Then you go to the SPY chart if you're doing options, right? And you look at that and you're like, oh, okay, we just came right back down to this level that we kept playing around breaking, and boom, and you got this just powerful V-shaped recovery, okay? And so for me, what I'm doing is one tab is ES, or NQ, I'm bouncing back and forth usually from the 1, 3, and 5. And then the second tab is just those two things on the 15 minute. It never changes off 15 minutes. It's a kind of a higher time frame, right? And then on the other two, I have SPY in one and the Q in the other. Okay, and I may bounce back and forth from the time frames in there as far as what I'm doing. But as the day's developing, I'm developing, seeing, okay, where is this trend going? Where's the trend lines at? Where is it bouncing at? Which one's the most powerful chart? Because usually it's going to be ES or NQ for the futures. One's going to be leading, right? And so if one's weaker than the other, I know that's the one I need to short. If one's stronger than the other, that's one I need to go long on. But you will see it's going to flip back and forth every day. SPY and Q's the same way, okay? Like it was the Q's Thursday that led the way. Once it broke the 50, you got a powerful move up and then retested the 50, okay? So it was leading SPY. And so you'll see that in both directions. And even investing, yes, absolutely, you can go to higher time frames. I mean, I like the weekly for sure, but you know, you may see a daily and go, well, it looks bullish. And then you go to the weekly and you're like, maybe, not really, okay? And so you buy in, all of a sudden it turns, well, because the weekly chart was still weak, right? And so yeah, I definitely use multiple time frames, but on investing, I really like the higher time frames. I love the weekly stochastic. I like to look at the RSI and see like if this is a real turn or is this just a fake out. Okay, so that's just me. Hopefully that helped and I explained that well enough for you. So next one here says, hey Mike, you used to talk about the Chinese real estate market. Can you please give us an update on that situation? Sure. Update is it's still a hot mess. And that's why I don't really talk about that much anymore, because it really is a mess and everything they're trying to do seems to be failing. But you can see these are most recent, right? This is September, and JP Morgan Chase says, you know, guess what? It's still in trouble, right? So even with a slew of government stimulus and support measures, nothing has really helped here. Because they got a massive situation. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how you fix what they got going on over there because there's so many things going on at the same time. But you can see this came out Friday, cutting a major rate by 80 basis points. And so they're trying to get people to buy and buy. They've ordered the banks to lend. Remember, the government owns the banking system, so they can just order them to do whatever they want to do. And so, but you look at this right here, last year the market for home loans declined for the first time in 2 decades, despite lenders extending 6.4 trillion won or 900 billion worth of new mortgages. That means property owners have stepped up repayments, a trend that sucked 7 trillion won or nearly 1 trillion from households last year. That rush has shown no sign of abating. According to ANZ research, homeowners have been paying down mortgages at a pace of 600 billion won per month in the first 7 months of 2024, or equivalent to a 12% of disposable income. I'll talk about that in just a second. But then you go over here, and here's the thing. And the reason why this is like really important and their housing market is so much more critical than what we got here is because 70% of family assets in China are stored in property. Every 5% decline in prices could destroy as much as $2.7 trillion in wealth. And in one of those articles, like it was interviewing Chinese couples, especially like one was 33-year-old couple, and they were like, yeah, we put all our money, our savings into a house because that's what they do over there. It's not the stock market, it's the real estate market for them. And then it basically is stuck now. Like they can't do anything with it. They can't sell it because who's buying, right? And so it's just stuck there, and it's losing value as that property goes down in value. And so I don't know how you get out, because I've never seen anything like that right here. I mean, we can still sell our property. We got tons of equity built up in our homes. Over there, though, they were building ghost cities and everything else. People have actually got money tied up in houses that aren't even built at this point in time. How are you going to sell that, right? And then you want new buyers to come in and buy the other part of the real estate market they're trying to build out. It makes no sense to me. So, and then you got a whole population issue with the one-child policy. So now all of a sudden, their population is shrinking, right? Because the birth rate went like this and collapsed. And so it's a mess. It really is. And so, I'm not a real estate expert, but that's got to be one of the biggest problems I've ever seen. I mean, it's been going on for 2 years now. How do you fix that? That's really the big question, because the government, the only thing that's kept them propped up is the fact that the government runs everything, right? So they can keep it propped up. If that was going on here, it'll be an 08 times 2. Right? The great financial crisis. I mean, look what we got into with the real estate market. And nowhere near as bad as that one is. And so, yeah, you let me know what you think about that. Eventually, sure, you got to hit a bottom at some point in time. But, have we seen the worst? I'm not really sure. Let me know what you think, though. But it's still a mess. Now, next one here says, Mike suggesting you need to do another Saturday video on using TradingView and how you get your indicators. Yeah, I can do that real quick for you. I mean, when you look at this right here, and this is obviously TradingView right here, and it's what I use and all the stuff. And you get the indicators right here. You just search whatever you want to search. And my favorites, I just keep over here. You see me use them all the time. VRVP, volume range, volume profile. And it helps you, one, set support resistance, lets you know where volume's coming in at over a certain time period, and you can go back as far as you want to. U.S. recessions is one of my favorites. I keep on here just because it marks out the recession, so you don't have to guess when it happened if you're doing research or back testing and stuff. This one right here is the moving average I use to figure out what stage we're actually in. It's the 30-week moving average. And so, it lets me know if I'm stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. You see me go over that multiple times. My moving averages, right here, I like the ones that have the daily, weekly, and you can literally just copy this in your search box and bring these up. And there's many choices you can get, okay? Like that's the EMAs, for example. I like this one because I can go in and change what the EMA actually would be if I want to. And I like the 5, 21, and 9 is the one I use the most. The SMA is the same thing. I can go in here and change whatever I want right here and whichever one I need. So usually 10, 5 is the most popular on that one for me. I wouldn't worry about that one. The Whaley thrust indicator, I rarely use it, but it's one of those things. And it's actually been off lately, believe it or not. I don't know if you've been looking at this one. And that happens sometimes when you're in a crazy market like we're in. But normally it never spots a bottom, but if I'm going to use it, it's really for that. Like if we're going to go into a major drawdown, and then once we go into a bull trend, that's when I most likely would use it. But lately it's been off. So if you go into like the daily on the Qs, you can see back in the day, yeah, it was really good. I mean, you see, because it rarely pops up, but when it did, those were really good buys. But again, it's not going to spot a bottom or anything. But it just kind of lets you know when a lot of people are buying and stuff. But you see right here lately, it actually spotted at the top. It's, buy at the top. And then we sold down quite a bit. But when you go back to 08, it was almost dead on as far as like spotting the bottom and stuff. But it's gotten worse as going on. So they might need to do some tweaks to it for sure, because the market's changed. Right now, the option market has so much going on and so much put into it. Did a pretty good job in 2022. Right? I mean, all those buys look great, but you see that one, right? And so you're like, oof, okay, I gotta be careful on that now, because that literally you'd have been buying right up there at the top. And that's not where you want to be doing. So, I think you marry that with another indicator and you're good to go. But again, you just go up here and search anything you want. RSI is another one I like to do, obviously. MACD, another one I like to do right there. And then, of course, the stochastic, and these are your momentum indicators, right? These are my favorites personally, because I don't know when, especially on higher time frames, when the momentum is shifting and turning. On higher time frames, it's like the big freighters, right? So if that happens, it's a lot better time to be buying in or selling or whatever it is you're looking to do. Now, last one here says, would really appreciate if you can go over the indicators you often use, which I just did for you. And also, where do you view the call sweeps? For me, I just go into Cheddar Flow. You can actually do a subscription if you want to, or you can just go onto their Twitter site and they send out, not as many as they used to, but they'll send out notification stuff. Usually if it's like big call sweeps or whales stepping in or put sweeps, things like that, they'll put them out there and that can help you out. So, or again, Unusual Whales is another one you can use, and one of our members really likes that one. Anyway, though, I hope you guys got some out of it. Definitely will set up the week with tomorrow. It will be a big week, a very volatile week for sure. So we'll see how that one's going to go. Again, put any questions you have in the bottom for next Saturday's video if you have any at all. Or if you like indicators you like to use, put in the bottom. I can share it with people and put it out there to people and stuff. I really like to hear from you guys, as you know. So on your way out, as usual, please hit that like and subscribe button. Really appreciate it, guys. Feel free to sign up for the membership. It's everything you get with it. And I'll see you for the Sunday video.